I recently read Do Hard Things by Steve Magness. Our proudest memories often originate from our hardest experiences. Whether it's getting a degree after several grueling semesters, launching a business website after several grueling months of work, or finishing a marathon. Completing hard and worthwhile endeavors we can be proud of requires a high level of toughness. People typically associate toughness with complete confidence, brute force, and bravado, but real toughness is none of those things. Author Steve Magness has explored the science of toughness, and he's found surprising differences between the traditional toughness maxims and the science of toughness. For starters, traditional toughness says act confident, but the science of toughness says embrace reality. If you go to the start of a marathon, you'll see novice runners sprinting off the start line, acting as though the marathon will be easy. But an hour later, reality sets in, and those overconfident runners are walking on the side of the road while veteran runners, who respected the marathon challenge, go by. When the U.S. Army examined results from their survival training courses, they found that the soldiers who experienced doubt and expected the training to be difficult performed much better than the soldiers who thought the training would be a piece of cake. As a wise and experienced military friend once told Steve Magness, an ounce of doubt keeps me sharp. The perseverance and toughness you will display during a difficult endeavor will be determined by your expectations before that endeavor. If you underestimate a challenge, you will panic when that challenge is more demanding than you thought it would be. The key to staying tough is assuming nothing will happen as easily or as smoothly as you hope, but with enough time and effort, you can get surprisingly good results. In other words, have short-term pessimism coupled with long-term optimism. The next way traditional toughness differs from the science of toughness is traditional toughness says ignore the pain and push on, whereas the science of toughness says acknowledge the pain but maintain equanimity. Every hard and worthwhile endeavor brings a heavy dose of discomfort. When discomfort strikes, the amygdala, a small region in the brain that scientists call the body's alarm system, is activated. People who burn out at work have an overactivated amygdala that they can't calm down. To avoid burning out and checking out, we must understand our internal alarms and then quickly turn those alarms off so we can make smart decisions and focus. It's like getting a low fuel alarm when we're driving. The alarm provides useful information we should act on. But once we determine that we have enough fuel to get to the next gas station, we don't need that alarm to keep ringing. One group of people have mastered the process of acknowledging and managing their inner alarm system. Meditators with 10,000 hours of meditation practice. Researchers wanted to see how experienced meditators with 10,000 hours of meditation practice would respond to painful stimuli. So they gathered meditators and non-meditators and put them in an fMRI machine and placed a hot probe on their skin directly below their wrists. When the hot probe touched the participant's skin, the fMRI brain scans showed similar activity in the amygdalas of meditators and non-meditators, but the non-meditators' amygdalas stayed active long after the initial pain, whereas the meditators' amygdalas quickly returned to their baseline level of activity. When both groups were asked about their experience, they all rated the initial pain at or above a 7 out of 10. But the non-meditators, who failed to get their amygdalas back to a baseline level of activity, rated the overall experience twice as unpleasant as the meditators. Our ability to return to a baseline and steady the mind has a name: equanimity. If we want sustained toughness, we must maintain equanimity. Luckily, we don't need 10,000 hours of meditation practice to maintain equanimity. We just need to deploy the following 3 techniques when discomfort strikes. First, zoom out and explain. When I get frustrated working on a video, I zoom out and see myself from a distance and think, oh look, Nathan's getting frustrated. Explaining stressful situations to ourselves in the third person is an effective way to regulate emotion because we stop identifying with the emotion. In one study, kids who refer to themselves in the third person while working on a frustrating task were 30% better at regulating their emotions and staying on task. When we zoom out and explain, we increase activity in the prefrontal cortex, the inquisitive problem-solving part of the brain, which in turn decreases activity in the amygdala, since the two brain regions have evolved to balance each other out. Zooming out and explaining is a great way to turn down the volume on our alarm system. But if we want the alarm to stop, we must reappraise. When lifting weights at the gym, we can interpret struggle as a sign of weakness or as a sign that we will experience muscle growth in the coming weeks. When we take a test, we can interpret nervousness as a sign that we're not prepared for the test, or we can see it as a sign that the test is important and our bodies are providing us with additional energy to focus. When we reappraise, we identify ways in which discomfort is beneficial. The more we reappraise, the more likely we are to deal with discomfort in a productive manner, instead of running away from it or ignoring it. After reappraising, we must take the final step back to baseline by reassuring ourselves that this too shall pass. Experienced meditators are so good at calming themselves down after a stressful experience because they've spent thousands of hours observing thoughts and emotions come and go and have come to understand that everything is temporary. We need not meditate for thousands of hours to know that discomfort will be temporary. We just need to use discomfort as a cue to tell ourselves, this too shall pass, and allow ourselves to gradually return to a state of equanimity. After this video, practice zooming out and explaining, reappraising, and reassuring by allowing yourself to be bored for 10 minutes. Just sit on the couch and do nothing. When your mind starts to get anxious and you reach for your phone, zoom out and think, hey, look how agitated, insert your name, is getting. And then think, experiencing this discomfort is an opportunity to practice my emotional regulation skills and develop mental toughness. Then think, just like every other emotion, this too shall pass. The last major way traditional toughness differs from the science of toughness is that traditional toughness says, forget your psychological needs and just do the work. Whereas the science of toughness says, satisfy your psychological needs and you'll work harder than ever. Humans have 3 psychological needs: autonomy, competency, and belonging. If you can activate a feeling of autonomy, competency, and belonging during a difficult endeavor, you will dramatically increase your odds of finishing that endeavor. Generate a feeling of autonomy by acknowledging that you always have a choice. Even if you're told what to do, you can choose how to think about it. Or you can choose not to do it and accept the consequences. When you feel like you must do something, do it on your terms by adjusting the variables. When runners complete a grueling VO2 max test on a treadmill, which measures their aerobic fitness, they push themselves harder and longer if they can choose the incline and speed of the treadmill, even if the range with which they can adjust the incline and speed is narrow. Next, consistently generate a feeling of competency by always feeling as though you're making progress. Reflect on the work you've completed the past few days to get to where you're at. Then focus on something you can do in the next 5 seconds to continue making progress. For a runner mid-marathon, this would mean reflecting on the miles she's completed and then executing the next few steps as well as she can. Lastly, generate a feeling of belonging by remembering the people or mission you're struggling for. A soldier on the battlefield can endure a grueling battle because he fights for the soldiers next to him. A solo entrepreneur can deal with setback after setback because she's on a mission to improve the lives of her customers. Steve Magness says, when we satisfy our psychological needs, we are allowed to fulfill our potential because our drive comes from within, so fear and pressure no longer consume us. That was the core message that I gathered from Do Hard Things by Steve Magness. This book will give you a set of science-backed tactics to take on difficult endeavors. I highly recommend it. If you would like a 1-page PDF summary of insights that I gathered from this book, just click the link below and I'll be happy to email it to you. If you already subscribe to the free Productivity Game email newsletter, this PDF is sitting in your inbox. If you like this video, please share it. And as always, thanks for watching and have yourself a productive week.